The courtroom fell silent. Vivian sat alone. 8 months pregnant. No lawyer, no money, no hope. Her billionaire husband laughed out loud. Did she actually think she could show up without a lawyer? This is almost too easy.
Here it is.
His mother smiled.
It has everything.
His mistress waited in the
Anna.
hallway.
This changes everything.
His 3 attorneys had already planned their victory dinner.
I'm telling
But
the
Harrison
truth.
Mercer
The child
made
Vivian
one
is carrying
fatal
is not
mistake.
his. It's my
He had no
brother's.
idea who his
He
mother-in-law
confessed
really was.
everything to me. On the charge of
And when
willful
those courtroom
neglect, we
doors
find in favor of
opened,
the plaintiff.
the most powerful attorney
They
in the
won.
state turned
This is a
pale.
huge victory.
What happened next exposed every lie Harrison ever told, every dollar he ever hid, every cruel word he thought no one would ever hear. Stay with me until the end, because the moment this mother reveals her true identity will change everything you think you know about justice, family, and the strength of a woman who refuses to break. This story teaches us one truth. Sometimes the person who seems to have nothing has everything she needs. Lesson and value statement. This story carries a powerful truth. Sometimes the people who seem to have nothing are the ones who have everything they need. Strength is not about how much money you have or how many lawyers stand beside you. Strength is about standing up when everyone expects you to fall. It is about protecting what matters most, even when the whole world tells you it is impossible. If you have ever felt alone in your battle, if you have ever been told you are not enough, this story is for you. You are stronger than you know. And sometimes, the people who love you are fighting battles you cannot see. The chair beside Vivian was empty, and Harrison Mercer was laughing. The sound echoed through the courtroom. That familiar laugh, the one he used at dinner parties when someone told a joke that wasn't quite funny enough, polished, practiced, cruel. Vivian pressed her palms flat against the defendant's table. The wood was cold beneath her fingers. Her wedding ring caught the fluorescent light. She was still wearing it. She didn't know why. 8 months pregnant, alone, facing the most powerful family law team in the state. Across the aisle, Harrison sat flanked by 3 attorneys in matching charcoal suits. Bradford Whitmore, the third, occupied the center position. Silver hair, perfect posture, a reputation for destroying opposing counsel before lunch. Harrison leaned toward his lawyer. His voice carried across the room. He wanted it to carry. Did she actually think she could show up without a lawyer? He shook his head slowly. This is almost too easy. The gallery murmured. Vivian felt the eyes on her, pitying, curious, entertained. In the front row, Constance Mercer sat wearing pearls and a satisfied smile. Harrison's mother had never liked Vivian. Not really. The smile confirmed what Vivian had suspected for 6 years. Constance had been waiting for this moment. Vivian's hand moved to her belly. The baby shifted. A small foot pressed against her ribs. I know, she thought. I know you're scared too. The courtroom smelled like old paper and lemon polish. Someone coughed in the back row. The air conditioning hummed too loud. Everything felt sharp. Too bright. Too real. 3 weeks ago, Vivian had an attorney, Jennifer Walsh. Excellent reputation. 20 years of experience. They had met twice. Vivian had felt hope for the first time in months. Then Jennifer called. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Mercer. A conflict of interest has come up. I can't represent you. The next attorney said the same thing, and the next 3 after that. Every family lawyer in this city is either on Mercer Industries' retainer or afraid of them. Vivian understood that now. Harrison hadn't just wanted to divorce her, he wanted to humiliate her. He wanted her to walk into this courtroom with nothing. She remembered his voice from their last phone conversation. That patronizing tone. The one he used when explaining things to people he considered beneath him. You should just sign the papers, sweetheart. You're not equipped for this fight, sweetheart. He always called her that when he was being cruel. The heavy wooden door behind the bench opened. Everyone rose. Judge Patricia Holloway entered. Late 50s, gray hair pulled back severely, reading glasses on a chain around her neck. She had a reputation for fairness. Vivian clung to that. Please be seated. The rustle of expensive fabric, the creak of wooden benches. Bradford Whitmore rose with theatrical grace. Your Honor, Bradford Whitmore, the third, representing the petitioner, Harrison Mercer. We're prepared to proceed with the preliminary custody hearing. Judge Holloway looked at the empty chair beside Vivian. Her expression revealed nothing. Mrs. Mercer, I see you're unrepresented today. Vivian stood. Her legs trembled slightly. The baby pressed down against her bladder. Yes, Your Honor. I've been unable to secure counsel. Bradford made a sound. Not quite a laugh, just enough to be heard. Judge Holloway's eyes flickered toward him. Mr. Whitmore, do you have something to add? Only that Mrs. Mercer has had ample time to retain an attorney. This is her third appearance without representation. At some point, we must question whether this is a delay tactic. Vivian's throat tightened. She wanted to explain. She wanted to tell the judge about the phone calls. The sudden conflicts of interest. The way Harrison's reach extended into every law office in the city. But she had no proof. Just her word against a billionaire's. Your Honor, Vivian said. Her voice came out steadier than she expected. I respectfully request a continuance to secure legal counsel. Bradford shook his head. Your Honor, this is the third such request. My client has been more than patient. He has business obligations, charitable commitments. We can't continue to postpone these proceedings indefinitely. Harrison nodded solemnly. The concerned husband. The reasonable man being inconvenienced by his difficult wife. Vivian reached for her phone under the table. A habit, a desperate hope. She checked it. Lock, unlock, lock, unlock, lock. No messages. Her mother hadn't responded in 2 days. Vivian had called Eleanor 5 times, sent 3 emails, nothing. Radio silence. Maybe she doesn't want to get involved. Maybe she thinks I deserve this. Maybe she's ashamed of me. The thoughts spiraled. Vivian forced them down. Judge Holloway studied the papers in front of her. The silence stretched. Mrs. Mercer, she finally said, I'm sympathetic to your situation. However, Mr. Whitmore raises a valid point about repeated continuances. I'm going to allow the hearing to proceed today. You may represent yourself or request appointed counsel if you meet the financial requirements. Financial requirements. Vivian almost laughed. On paper, she was married to a man worth hundreds of millions of dollars. In reality, she couldn't access a single account. Harrison had frozen everything the day he filed for divorce. Bradford Whitmore smiled, a shark scenting blood. Your Honor, if I may proceed with our opening statement. Go ahead. Bradford buttoned his jacket. He walked slowly toward the center of the courtroom, every movement calculated. Your Honor, this is a simple case. A very successful man, a devoted father, a pillar of this community. He married a woman who seemed charming, seemed devoted, but over time, her true nature emerged. Vivian's fingernails dug into her palms. Vivian Mercer is emotionally unstable, Bradford continued. She's prone to paranoid accusations. She has displayed concerning behavior throughout her pregnancy. My client, out of genuine concern for his unborn child, has been forced to seek primary custody. The words hit like physical blows. Emotionally unstable, paranoid, concerning behavior. This is what he's going to do. He's going to make me sound crazy. He's going to take my baby because I couldn't find a lawyer and I can't defend myself. Harrison watched her. His expression was calm, almost bored, like this was a minor inconvenience in his otherwise important day. Bradford droned on. Statistics about maternal mental health, vague references to incidents, nothing specific, nothing provable, just innuendo wrapped in legal language. The courtroom doors creaked open. Vivian's head snapped toward the sound. Her heart jumped. A court clerk walked in. Young woman. Stack of papers. She handed something to Judge Holloway and walked out. Not her mother. Harrison caught Vivian's eye. His lips curved. Were you expecting someone, sweetheart? Vivian didn't answer. She turned back to face the judge. Her hands were shaking. She pressed them flat against the table again. I am alone. The realization settled into her bones. I am completely alone. Bradford finished his opening statement. Something about protecting the child. The sacred duty of the court. Words that meant nothing. Judge Holloway looked at Vivian. Mrs. Mercer, would you like to make an opening statement? Vivian stood. The room swayed slightly. She steadied herself against the table. Your Honor. Her voice cracked. She cleared her throat. Started again. Your Honor. I am not unstable. I am not paranoid. I am a pregnant woman whose husband has systematically destroyed her ability to defend herself in these proceedings. Bradford scoffed. Your Honor. I am not finished. The words came out sharp. Vivian surprised herself. Judge Holloway held up a hand. Let her speak, Mr. Whitmore. Vivian took a breath. The baby kicked. For 6 years, I was a good wife. I gave up my career. I supported my husband. I made his life seamless. And in return, he... Her voice broke. She couldn't say it. Not yet. Not here. I will represent myself today, Vivian said. I don't have a choice. But I'm not what they're trying to make me seem. She sat down. Her legs gave out more than she intended. Harrison whispered something to Bradford. They both smiled. Judge Holloway made a note. Very well. We'll proceed. Mr. Whitmore, call your first witness. Bradford stood. The petitioner calls Constance Mercer. Vivian watched her mother-in-law rise, pearls gleaming, posture perfect, a woman who had spent 6 years finding ways to make Vivian feel small. This is only the beginning. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, something else stirred, something quiet but stubborn. I survived 6 years of marriage to her son. I can survive this. She placed both hands on her belly. We can survive this. The baby kicked again. Constance Mercer settled into the witness chair like she was posing for a portrait. Back straight, chin elevated, the soft click of her heels against the wooden floor. The court clerk administered the oath. Constance's voice rang clear and practiced. I do solemnly swear. Bradford Whitmore approached with the careful deference of a man who knew where his fees came from. Miss Mercer, thank you for being here today. I know this must be difficult. It is. Constance pressed a hand to her chest. But I'll do anything to protect my grandchild. Vivian's stomach turned. Your grandchild. As if the baby wasn't still inside Vivian's body. As if Vivian had already ceased to exist. Can you describe your daughter-in-law's behavior over the past year? Constance sighed. The kind of sigh that preceded a long list of grievances. Where do I begin? Vivian has always been sensitive, but since the pregnancy, she's become erratic, paranoid. She accused Harrison of the most terrible things. What kind of accusations? That he was hiding money, that he was seeing other women. Constance shook her head sadly. My son is many things, but he's not a cheater. He built an empire from nothing. He doesn't have time for affairs. Vivian's hands clenched under the table. From nothing. Harrison inherited $60 million from his father. He'd turned it into more, yes, but nothing? Did Vivian ever seem irrational to you? Bradford asked. Constantly. Constance leaned forward slightly, confiding. She would cry for no reason. She would demand to see bank statements. She once accused Harrison of moving money offshore, which is absolutely absurd. It's not absurd. I found the accounts. I have the numbers. But the evidence was on her laptop. The laptop Harrison had taken from the house when he changed the locks. In your opinion, Bradford said, is Vivian Mercer fit to raise a child? Objection. Vivian stood. Her voice came out stronger than she felt. She's not qualified to make that assessment. Judge Holloway nodded. Sustained. Rephrase, Mr. Whitmore. Bradford didn't miss a beat. What have you observed about Vivian's preparation for motherhood? Constance's expression shifted. A practiced look of concern. She's bought nothing for the baby. No crib, no clothes, nothing. My son offered to set up the nursery, and she refused. She said... Constance paused dramatically. She said she wasn't sure she wanted to bring a child into this marriage. The gallery murmured. Vivian's mouth fell open. That was a lie, a complete fabrication. She had asked Harrison about setting up a nursery. He'd said they would deal with it later. He was always too busy. That's not true, Vivian said. Judge Holloway gave her a warning look. Mrs. Mercer, you'll have your opportunity to cross-examine. Vivian sat. Her face burned. Bradford nodded sympathetically at Constance. No further questions. He returned to his seat. Harrison patted his shoulder. Judge Holloway looked at Vivian. Your witness. Vivian stood. Her mind raced. How do you cross-examine someone who's lying under oath when you have no proof? She walked toward the witness stand. Constance watched her approach with barely concealed contempt. Mrs. Mercer, Vivian began. Her voice wavered. She forced it steady. You said I bought nothing for the baby. Is that true? It's what I observed. Did you ever come to our home? To the room that would be the nursery? Constance shifted slightly. I visited regularly. When was the last time you were in our home? A pause. You don't recall exactly. Was it before or after Harrison filed for divorce? Another pause. Longer this time. Before. How long before? Constance's jaw tightened. Perhaps a few months? 3 months? 4? 6? Objection. Bradford rose, badgering the witness. I'm trying to establish the basis for her testimony, Your Honor. Judge Holloway considered. I'll allow it. Answer the question, Mrs. Mercer. Constance smoothed her skirt. It may have been 4 or 5 months ago. So you haven't seen the nursery since then? No, man. Then how do you know what I have or haven't prepared? Constance's mask slipped. Just for a second, Vivian saw the irritation beneath. Harrison told me, my son doesn't lie. Your son lies about everything. He lies about money. He lies about women. He lies about where he spends his nights. But Vivian couldn't say that. Not without proof. No further questions. She returned to her seat. It felt like a small victory. It wasn't enough. Bradford called his next witness. And the next. A parade of Harrison's employees and associates. Each one painted the same picture. Vivian was unstable. Vivian was difficult. Vivian was unfit. By the lunch recess, Vivian's head was pounding. She sat alone in the hallway, a bench near the vending machines. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Someone's coffee had spilled near the trash can. The sharp smell of it mixed with industrial cleaner. I am going to lose my baby. The thought crashed over her. He's going to take her. He has the money. He has the lawyers. He has witnesses who will say whatever he pays them to say. Vivian checked her phone again. Still nothing from her mother. Why won't you answer me? They hadn't spoken much in the past few years. Vivian's fault, mostly. Harrison had encouraged her to create distance from her family. He said her mother was overbearing. He said her father was passive. He said they didn't understand his world. And Vivian had believed him. She had let him isolate her. Slowly. Systematically. Until she woke up one day and realized she had no one. A memory surfaced, unbidden, 18 months ago. Vivian and Eleanor had argued about Harrison. Eleanor had sensed something wrong. She'd asked pointed questions about money, about his late nights, about why Vivian seemed smaller every time they saw each other. "You're imagining things, Mom," Vivian had said. "Harrison is a good man. You just don't know him like I do." Eleanor's expression had been strange, sad and something else. Something Vivian now recognized as knowing. "I hope you're right, sweetheart. I really do." "I wasn't right. You knew, and I wouldn't listen." Vivian pressed her hands to her eyes. The tears came anyway. Silent. Useless. The baby moved. That familiar flutter. Vivian inhaled slowly. Exhaled. "I have to keep fighting. Even if I lose, I have to try." She wiped her face, straightened her shoulders, stood. A woman's voice came from behind her. "Mrs. Mercer?" Vivian turned. A young woman, 20-something, blonde, nervous. Vivian recognized her immediately. Amber Sinclair, Harrison's executive assistant, the other woman. Vivian's whole body went rigid. "What do you want?" Amber glanced around. Her voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "I shouldn't be here. If Harrison knew I was talking to you, then why are you?" Amber's hands twisted together. Her nails were bitten down. "Because I have something you need. Evidence. About the money, the offshore accounts." Vivian's heart stopped, then started again, racing. "Why would you help me?" Amber's eyes were red-rimmed. She'd been crying, recently. "Because I found out I'm not the only one. He's been seeing someone else, behind my back, the whole time. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so pathetic." "So he cheated on his mistress." Amber flinched. "I know what I did. I know it was wrong, but I thought—" "You thought he loved you." Silence. "He doesn't love anyone," Vivian said. "I learned that the hard way. So did you." Amber reached into her purse, pulled out a flash drive. "Everything is on here? Bank accounts, shell companies, emails where he talks about hiding assets from you, about how he planned this divorce a year ago." Vivian stared at the small device. Such a tiny thing. It could change everything. "Why should I trust you?" "You shouldn't." Amber's voice cracked. "But this is real? I swear it's real." Vivian took the flash drive. It was warm from Amber's hand. "If this is some kind of trick—" "C'est certain, is it not?" "It's not. I promise." Footsteps echoed down the hallway. Amber's head snapped toward the sound. "I have to go. He can't see me talking to you." She hurried away, disappeared around a corner. Vivian looked at the flash drive in her palm. Hope. For the first time in weeks. But it wasn't enough. She still had no lawyer. She still had no one to present this evidence properly. The bailiff's voice echoed. "Court will resume in 5 minutes." Vivian tucked the flash drive into her purse. "I have evidence now. But what good is evidence if I can't use it?" She walked back toward the courtroom. The doors loomed ahead, heavy, wooden, intimidating. "I am not beaten yet." She pushed them on open. The afternoon session began with another witness, Dr. Marcus Webb, psychologist, hired expert. Vivian had never met him. Bradford presented him like a gift. Distinguished credentials, years of experience, completely objective. "Dr. Webb," Bradford said, "you reviewed materials related to Mrs. Mercer's mental health history. What did you find?" Dr. Webb adjusted his glasses. His voice was professionally soothing, the kind of voice that made terrible things sound reasonable. I reviewed transcripts of therapy sessions Mrs. Mercer attended approximately 3 years ago. The content was concerning. Vivian's blood ran cold. Therapy sessions. 3 years ago, after the miscarriage. What kind of concerns? Bradford asked. Mrs. Mercer expressed feelings of worthlessness. She described intrusive thoughts. She indicated difficulty bonding with the concept of future children. The words fell like stones into water, each one creating ripples that spread through the courtroom. Vivian couldn't breathe. Those sessions were supposed to be confidential. She had gone to therapy after losing her first baby at 11 weeks. She had been grieving, broken, raw. Harrison had encouraged her to go. He said it would help. Now she understood why. Your Honor. Vivian stood. Her voice shook. Those were private grief counseling sessions. After a miscarriage. He recorded them without my consent. Bradford shook his head. The sessions were recorded as part of the standard clinical practice, with the patient's signed consent. I never consented to. Your signature is on the intake form, Mrs. Mercer. Vivian remembered the stack of papers. The administrative assistant had been impatient. Sign here, initial here, sign here. Vivian hadn't read them carefully. She'd been crying too hard to see the fine print. He set me up, even then. Even when I was breaking apart from losing our baby. Dr. Webb, Bradford continued, based on your review, do you have concerns about Mrs. Mercer's fitness as a primary caregiver? I do. Dr. Webb nodded gravely. The unresolved grief. The expressed ambivalence about motherhood. The paranoid ideation regarding her husband. These patterns suggest someone who would benefit from professional supervision during the early months of child rearing. Professional supervision. That was their angle. Not taking her baby outright, just monitoring her, controlling her, keeping Harrison in power. Vivian's hands trembled against the table. She thought about that time, 3 years ago, the blood that wouldn't stop, the emergency room, the doctor's face when she delivered the news, Harrison's expression, concern on the surface, irritation beneath it. The timing wasn't right anyway, he'd said later, much later, when he thought she wasn't listening. The timing wasn't right. As if their baby had been an inconvenience, a scheduling conflict. No further questions. Bradford returned to his seat. Judge Holloway looked at Vivian. Cross-examination? Vivian stood. Her legs felt disconnected from her body. She walked toward the witness stand. Dr. Webb. Did you ever meet with me personally? No, I reviewed the clinical materials. Did you interview anyone who knows me? Friends, family, colleagues? I spoke with Mr. Mercer and his mother. So your entire assessment is based on transcripts from 3 years ago and conversations with my husband and his mother, people who are actively trying to take my child. Dr. Webb shifted. The clinical evidence. Do you know what happened 3 years ago, Dr. Webb? Do you know why I was in therapy? You experienced a pregnancy loss. A pregnancy loss. Vivian's voice hardened. I lost my baby. At 11 weeks, I saw the heartbeat on the ultrasound 1 week. The next week, it was gone. The courtroom was silent. I went to therapy because I was grieving, because my husband told me I needed help, because I couldn't stop crying. Vivian's eyes burned. And you're using that grief to try to take my second child. Dr. Webb's expression didn't change. I'm simply providing professional analysis. You're providing ammunition for a man who is using my worst moment against me. Objection. Bradford was on his feet. Argumentative. Sustained. Judge Holloway's voice was quiet. Mrs. Mercer, please confine yourself to questions. Vivian forced herself to breathe. No further questions. She returned to her seat. The baby was pressing against her ribs, hard, uncomfortable. Hold on, little one. Hold on. Judge Holloway called a 15-minute recess. Vivian walked to the women's restroom, locked herself in the last stall, sat on the closed toilet lid. The bathroom was empty, silent except for the drip of a faucet and the hum of fluorescent lights. She thought about the baby she lost, the one that never had a name, the tiny heartbeat that stopped without warning. She thought about Harrison, how he'd held her in the hospital, how he'd said the right words. "We'll try again. It's not your fault. I'm here." He was already with Amber by then. The realization had come months later, when she found the texts, when she traced back the dates. Their baby had died, and Harrison had already started his affair. She remembered their anniversary dinner that year, 2 months after the miscarriage. Harrison had given her a necklace, 3 diamonds. Past, present, future, he'd said. He'd ordered the same necklace for Amber the same week. Vivian found the receipt. The bathroom was cold, the air conditioning too strong. Vivian wrapped her arms around her belly. The baby kicked. Twice. 3 times. "I'm going to protect you," she whispered. "I don't know how yet, but I will. I promise." She sat there for 7 minutes, listening to the drip of the faucet, feeling her daughter move inside her. When she finally emerged, her eyes were dry. The hallway was mostly empty. A man sat on a bench across from the bathroom, reading a newspaper. He looked up. Their eyes met. Vivian froze. Wesley Mercer, Harrison's older brother. She hadn't seen him in years. He'd been excluded from family events after some kind of falling out. Harrison never talked about it. Constance pretended he didn't exist. Wesley folded his newspaper, stood. "Vivian." "Wesley." She didn't know what else to say. He walked toward her. Slowly, his expression was unreadable. "You look like you're having a hard day." "You could say that." He nodded, reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out a business card. "Call this number tonight. There's someone who wants to help." Vivian looked at the card. "No name. Just a phone number. Why would you help me? You're his brother." Wesley's jaw tightened. Something dark flickered in his eyes. "Harrison and I haven't been brothers in a long time, not since he forged our father's will and stole my inheritance." The words hung in the air. "He forged?" "Call the number." Wesley stepped back. "Tonight. Don't wait." He walked away, turned a corner, disappeared. Vivian looked at the business card. Her hands trembled. The bailiff's voice echoed. "Court resuming in 2 minutes." She tucked the card into her purse, next to the flash drive, next to her dead phone. 2 pieces of hope. No way to use them. Not yet. The afternoon dragged on. More witnesses, more carefully constructed lies. Vivian sat through all of it. Her back ached. Her feet were swollen. The baby had settled into an uncomfortable position that pressed against her bladder. But she didn't leave, didn't ask for breaks. She sat and listened and took notes on a yellow legal pad she'd found in the courtroom. Details, names, contradictions, anything she might use later, if there was a later. At 4:30, Judge Holloway called an end to the day's proceedings. "We'll reconvene tomorrow at 9. Mrs. Mercer, I strongly encourage you to secure legal representation." "Yes, Your Honor." Harrison passed her on the way out. Close enough that she could smell his cologne, that familiar scent she used to love, cedar and something citrus. "You did better than I expected," he murmured. "But you're still going to lose." Vivian didn't respond. She gathered her things. Her purse, her legal pad, the remnants of her dignity. The parking garage was cold. Her footsteps echoed against concrete. Her car was a 3-year-old sedan. Harrison had wanted her to drive something nicer. A Mercedes, a BMW, something that reflected his status. Vivian had insisted on the sedan. One of the few battles she'd won. She sat in the driver's seat, door closed, Engine off. Staring at nothing. 45 minutes passed. She couldn't go home. Home was a hotel room now. A courtyard inn by the highway. Harrison had changed the locks on their house the day he filed for divorce. She couldn't face the hotel. The beige walls, the stiff bedspread, the Bible in the nightstand drawer. So she sat in the parking garage, engine off, watching the light change as the sun went down. Her phone buzzed. Vivian grabbed it, hands shaking, a text from Marlene, her best friend, the only one who hadn't abandoned her. How did it go? Call me. Vivian dialed. Marlene answered on the first ring. Tell me everything, Vivian told her. The witnesses, the psychological report, the way Harrison laughed, the empty chair beside her. That absolute monster, Marlene said. I knew he was bad. I didn't know he was this bad. You tried to tell me. I should have tried harder. Vivian leaned her head against the steering wheel. I got something today. Evidence. From Amber. The mistress? She gave me a flash drive. Bank accounts, offshore money, but I don't know how to use it. I don't have a lawyer. Silence on the line. And there's something else. Wesley Mercer gave me a phone number. Someone who wants to help. Harrison's brother? I thought they hated each other. They do? That's why he's helping. More silence. Call the number, Marlene said. Tonight. What do you have to lose? She was right. Vivian had nothing left to lose. Okay? I'll call. And Vivian? Your mom called me today. Vivian sat up straight. My mom? She called you? She said she's been trying to reach you. Your phone keeps going to voicemail. That's impossible. I've had my phone. Vivian checked her settings. Her stomach dropped. Blocked numbers. A list she hadn't created. Eleanor's number was at the top. Harrison. He must have done it when he took her laptop. While she was in the shower, while she trusted him, he blocked her. Vivian whispered. Harrison blocked my mother's number. Jesus. Vivian's hands shook as she removed the block. Immediately, a flood of messages appeared. Voicemails, texts, dozens of them. Sweetheart, call me. Vivian, I'm worried. I'm coming. Hold on, I'm coming. The last text was from this morning. Your mom said something else, Marlene said. She said she's on her way. Just hold on. Vivian started crying. Great heaving sobs that shook her whole body. She's coming? She's actually coming? That's what she said. The parking garage was dark now. The overhead lights had flickered on, pale orange, humming. I thought she abandoned me. I thought she didn't care. She cares. She's always cared, you know that. Vivian wiped her eyes, tried to breathe. I have to call that number, the one Wesley gave me. Do it now, I'll wait. Vivian found the card, typed the number with trembling fingers. It rang twice. A woman's voice answered, professional, calm. Is this Vivian? Yes. Who is this? My name isn't important right now. What's important is that we have information you need about Harrison's finances, about his real assets, about the prenuptial agreement you signed under duress. Vivian's heart pounded. How do you know about that? We've been watching Harrison Mercer for a long time, waiting for the right opportunity. You're that opportunity. I don't understand. Who is we? A pause. Your mother will explain everything when she arrives. We've been working together. My mother? Just trust us, Vivian. Come to court tomorrow. Don't give up. No matter what happens in the morning session, don't give up. The line went dead. Vivian stared at her phone. What did they say? Marlene's voice, still on the other line. They said my mother will explain. They said she's been working on something. Then your mom has a plan. A plan. Eleanor Ashford always had a plan. Vivian had forgotten that. Harrison had made her forget. I should go, Vivian said. I need to try calling my mom. Call me later. Let me know you're okay. I will. Vivian hung up, dialed her mother's number. Voicemail. She tried again. Voicemail. One more time. Vivian? Eleanor's voice, breathless, real. Mom? I'm at the airport. My flight lands at midnight. I'll be at the courthouse in the morning. Mom? What's happening? Who are those people? I can't explain over the phone. Just trust me. Can you do that? Vivian thought about all the years she hadn't trusted her mother. All the time she'd chosen Harrison's version of reality over Eleanor's concerns. Yes. I trust you. Good. Get some rest. Tomorrow, everything changes. The line went dead. Vivian sat in her car for another 20 minutes, watching the orange lights flicker, feeling her daughter move. Something had shifted. She didn't know what yet. But for the first time in months, she didn't feel completely alone. She started the engine, pulled out of the parking garage. Tomorrow, everything changes. She had to believe that was true. 9 o'clock. The courtroom was fuller than yesterday. Word had spread. Harrison Mercer versus his pregnant wife. Good entertainment. Vivian sat in the same spot. The chair beside her still empty. Her mother hadn't arrived yet. The airport. Midnight. That's what Eleanor had said. But the morning was here, and Vivian was still alone. Maybe something went wrong. Maybe her flight was delayed. Maybe... Bradford Whitmore rose. His smile was wider today. Your Honor, we have additional evidence to present this morning. Financial documents demonstrating Mrs. Mercer's complete dependency on my client. Judge Holloway nodded. Proceed. The documents appeared on a projection screen. Bank statements, credit card receipts, a narrative painted in numbers. As you can see, Mrs. Mercer has no income of her own, no savings in her name, no property. Everything she has belongs to my client. Vivian's jaw tightened. Everything I have belongs to him because he insisted on it, because he wanted control. She remembered the conversation from their second year of marriage. Harrison had been so reasonable, so persuasive. Why do you need your own accounts, sweetheart? We're a team. Everything I have is yours. She'd given up her separate bank account, her retirement fund, even the emergency money her father had given her on their wedding day. All of it had flowed into accounts with Harrison's name. My client has been more than generous, Bradford continued. He offered Mrs. Mercer a settlement of $200,000, considering her contribution to the marriage, which is negligible. This is extraordinarily fair. $200,000. Harrison was worth $450 million. She knew that now. The flash drive had shown her. 200,000 was nothing. It was an insult. Additionally, Bradford said, we present evidence that Mrs. Mercer has made no contribution to Mercer Industries. She has no role in my client's business success. She attended parties. She decorated the house. That is the extent of her involvement. Vivian thought about the parties, the hundreds of parties, the networking events, the charity galas, the dinners she'd planned and hosted and smiled through even when she was exhausted. She thought about the business associates she'd charmed, the deals that had been sealed over her homemade food, the clients who'd become friends because of her warmth. None of that counted, because it couldn't be measured in dollars. Bradford wrapped up his presentation, returned to his seat. Judge Holloway looked at Vivian. Mrs. Mercer, do you have a response? Vivian stood. Her legs trembled. She hadn't slept. The baby had been restless all night. Your Honor, I have evidence that contradicts everything Mr. Whitmore has presented. Bradford snorted. What evidence? Financial records showing my husband's true net worth. Offshore accounts he's hidden from this court. A prenuptial agreement I was coerced into signing. The courtroom buzzed. Harrison's face changed. The first crack in his composure. Your Honor, Bradford said quickly. This is clearly fabricated. Let her speak, Mr. Whitmore. Vivian's hands shook as she pulled the flash drive from her purse. This contains bank statements, emails, documentation of shell companies. My husband is worth over $400 million, not the $70 million he disclosed to this court. Harrison stood up. That's stolen property. She stole confidential business documents. I didn't steal anything. They were given to me. By who? The courtroom doors opened. Everyone turned, and Vivian's heart stopped. Eleanor Ashford stood in the doorway. Silver hair swept back. Navy blue suit. The same presence that had filled courtrooms for 30 years. But Eleanor wasn't alone. Behind her walked Wesley Mercer, and behind Wesley walked Amber Sinclair. The gallery erupted in whispers. Judge Holloway rose slightly from her bench, an involuntary gesture of recognition. Justice Ashford? Retired, Your Honor. Eleanor's voice carried without effort, but still licensed to practice in this state. She walked down the center aisle. Every eye followed her. Bradford Whitmore's face had gone the color of old paper. Your Honor, Eleanor said, I apologize for my tardiness. My flight from Washington was delayed. I am Eleanor Ashford, and I will be representing my daughter. Harrison grabbed Bradford's arm. His whisper was loud enough to hear. That's her mother? Her mother is Eleanor Ashford? The name meant something even to Harrison, the woman who had written the landmark decision on marital asset concealment, the judge whose opinions had shaped family law for a generation, the attorney who, before ascending to the bench, had won the largest divorce settlement in the state's history. Your Honor. Bradford was on his feet. This is highly irregular. We've had no notice of new counsel. I believe my daughter requested 3 continuances to secure legal representation. Eleanor reached the front of the courtroom, placed a hand on Vivian's shoulder. Vivian felt the warmth of it through her blouse. You opposed each request. You wanted to proceed immediately. Consider your wish granted. She opened her briefcase, withdrew a thick folder. I've had 2 weeks to prepare, Mr. Whitmore. That's more than sufficient. Judge Holloway sat back down, something like relief in her expression. This court welcomes proper representation from Mrs. Mercer. Justice Ashford, please proceed. Eleanor turned to face the room. Her gaze swept across Harrison, across Bradford, across Constance in the gallery. Your Honor, before we continue, I'd like to introduce 2 witnesses who have come forward with information relevant to these proceedings. She gestured toward Wesley and Amber. Wesley Mercer, the petitioner's brother, and Amber Sinclair, the petitioner's former executive assistant. Former. Vivian noticed the word former. Harrison's face was a mask of barely controlled fury. This is a setup, he said. My brother is a disgruntled... Mr. Mercer, Judge Holloway's voice was sharp. You'll have your opportunity to respond. Sit down. Harrison sat. Eleanor smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. Now, she said, let's talk about what my son-in-law has been hiding. Eleanor moved through the courtroom like she owned it, which, in a sense, she did. She had argued cases here before her appointment to the Supreme Court. The wood paneling remembered her voice. Your Honor, I'd like to present Exhibit A. Bradford stood. Objection. We've had no opportunity to review. These are public financial filings, Eleanor said calmly. Easily verifiable, and they directly contradict the financial disclosure submitted by the petitioner. Judge Holloway nodded. I'll allow it. The document appeared on the screen. Vivian had seen it before, on the flash drive, but seeing it projected for the whole courtroom felt different. Larger. This is Mr. Mercer's actual net worth, Eleanor said, as documented in confidential investor filings for his company, $452 million. The gallery gasped. Compare that to Exhibit B. Another document appeared. The financial disclosure submitted to this court, claiming net worth of $70 million. The numbers sat side by side, damning in their simplicity. That's a discrepancy of $382 million, Eleanor continued, which, Your Honor, constitutes fraud upon the court. Bradford was sweating now. Vivian could see the sheen on his forehead. Your Honor, these documents. Where did these documents come from? From Mr. Mercer's own records. Eleanor's voice was ice. Provided by a concerned party. This is clearly the work of a disgruntled employee. Actually, Eleanor said, it's the work of a concerned brother. Wesley Mercer stepped forward. I'm prepared to testify, he said, under oath, about everything. Harrison lunged to his feet. You traitor. Mr. Mercer, Judge Holloway's gavel cracked against wood. Sit down immediately, or I will have you removed. Harrison sat. His hands were shaking. Vivian had never seen him lose control like this. It felt strange, watching his mask crumble. This man she had loved. This man she had feared. Reduced to sputtering rage in a courtroom, the baby kicked hard. Vivian pressed a hand to her belly. Yes, I see it too. This is what happens when the truth comes out. Eleanor continued. Document after document. The offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. 3 of them, totaling $90 million. The shell companies in Delaware used to hide real estate investments. The property in Switzerland. The yacht registered to a Panamanian holding company. The art collection officially owned by a trust Harrison had failed to disclose. And then the emails. Eleanor's voice was measured as she read them aloud. August 15th. Mr. Mercer to his financial advisor. Quote, and make sure Vivian's name isn't on any of the new accounts. I want this completely separate, end quote. October 3rd, Mr. Mercer to his attorney. Quote, start preparing the divorce documents. Don't file yet. I want to wait until she's further along in the pregnancy. Harder for her to fight back, end quote. The courtroom was silent. Harder for her to fight back, Eleanor repeated. That was his plan, to time this divorce to when his pregnant wife would be most vulnerable. Vivian felt tears streaming down her face. She didn't try to stop them. All along. He planned this all along. The pregnancy wasn't an accident. Harrison had stopped using protection 6 months before. She'd thought he wanted children. She'd thought he was ready. He just wanted her trapped. Your Honor, Eleanor said, I move that the prenuptial agreement be voided due to fraudulent inducement and inadequate disclosure. My daughter was never shown Mr. Mercer's true assets. She was presented with falsified financial statements. She signed under pressure 3 days before her wedding, after being told the ceremony would be canceled if she refused. Bradford stood weakly. Your Honor, the prenuptial agreement was properly executed. It was witnessed by 3 of Mr. Mercer's employees. Eleanor cut him off, all of whom received substantial bonuses the same week. I have the payroll records. She slid another document across to the judge. This agreement is the textbook definition of unconscionable. And I wrote the textbook. Despite everything, someone in the gallery laughed. Judge Holloway studied the documents. Her face was unreadable. Mrs. Ashford, excuse me, Justice Ashford. Mrs. is fine, Your Honor. Mrs. Ashford, this is substantial evidence. I'd like to call a recess to review these materials. Of course, Your Honor. Court will resume at 2 o'clock. The gavel fell. The courtroom erupted in noise. Reporters, when had reporters arrived, pushed toward the front. Camera phones flashed. Harrison shoved past his lawyers, grabbed his mother's arm. They hurried toward a side exit. Vivian sat frozen, unable to move. Her mother sat down beside her, finally. The chair was no longer empty. "Mom." The word came out as a whisper. "I'm here, sweetheart. I'm here now. I thought you weren't coming. I know. I'm sorry." Eleanor took her hand. "I had to be careful. If Harrison knew I was involved before I had everything ready, he would have found a way to block me too." "The phone. He blocked your number." "I suspected as much. That's why I called Marlene. You planned all of this." Eleanor smiled. Her eyes were wet. "You're my daughter. Did you think I would let him destroy you?" Vivian leaned into her mother's shoulder. For a moment, she was 8 years old again. Safe. Protected. "There's more," Eleanor said quietly. "Wesley has been documenting Harrison's crimes for years. Fraud, tax evasion, forgery of their father's will. Harrison should have gone to prison a long time ago." "Why didn't Wesley come forward before?" "He was afraid. Harrison has resources, connections, the ability to make problems disappear." Eleanor paused. "But when Wesley heard about the divorce, he contacted me. He said he couldn't watch Harrison do to you what Harrison did to him." "What did Harrison do to him?" "Destroyed his relationship with their father, forged the will to cut Wesley out of the inheritance entirely, used private investigators to dig up dirt, and threatened to release it if Wesley challenged the forgery." Vivian absorbed this. The man she had married, the father of her child, a criminal, a fraud, a monster hidden behind perfect suits and charming smiles. "It's almost over," Eleanor said. "A few more hours. Can you hold on?" Vivian looked down at her belly, at the baby who had survived all of this with her. "Yes, we can hold on." The 2-hour recess felt like 20 minutes. Vivian sat with her mother and her father. Douglas had arrived during the break, his face pale with worry and relief, in a small conference room near the courtroom. No one spoke much. There wasn't much to say. Eleanor reviewed her notes. Douglas held Vivian's hand. The baby shifted and kicked. "Are you eating enough?" Douglas asked. Doctor questions, father questions, trying to. "You need protein and iron. I'll bring you something after this is over." After this is over. As if it was almost finished. As if the hardest part wasn't still ahead. At 1:30, Vivian excused herself. She needed air, space, a moment alone with her thoughts. The courthouse bathroom was empty. Same flickering lights, same dripping faucet. She stood at the sink, staring at her reflection. She barely recognized herself. Dark circles under her eyes, pale skin, hair that hadn't been properly washed in days, clothes that hung on her frame despite the pregnant belly. "This is what he did to me." The thought was quiet, clear. This is what I let him do. She gripped the edge of the sink. The guilt was overwhelming sometimes. The knowledge that she had chosen Harrison, that she had defended him to everyone who tried to warn her, that she had cut off her family, her friends, her career, all because he asked her to. Because he manipulated me into believing it was my choice. A sob escaped her, then another. The grief she'd been holding back for months broke through. She cried for the marriage she thought she had, the love she thought was real, the years she would never get back. She cried for her first baby, the one who never got a name, the one Harrison had already betrayed before her tiny heart stopped beating. She cried for herself, for the woman she used to be, the architect who designed beautiful building, the daughter who had a family who loved her, the person she'd lost somewhere along the way. The baby kicked, hard, insistent. Vivian gasped, pressed her hand to her belly. "I know," she whispered. "I know. I'm sorry." She looked at herself in the mirror again, behind the exhaustion, behind the pain. Something else was there, something harder, stronger, I survived 6 years with him. I'm 8 months pregnant in a courthouse bathroom, and I'm still standing. I didn't break. He tried to break me, and I didn't break. She wiped her eyes, straightened her shoulders. The woman in the mirror straightened with her. I am not what he said I am. I am not unstable. I am not worthless. I am not crazy. I am the woman who gathered evidence in secret, who saved documents he thought he'd destroyed, who held on when everything in me wanted to let go. I am stronger than he ever knew. The baby moved again. Gentler this time. We're going to be okay, Vivian said. I promise. She washed her face, dried her hands, walked out of the bathroom. Her father was waiting in the hallway. The judge is ready, he said. Vivian nodded. She walked back into the courtroom. The afternoon session was about to begin. The gallery was even more crowded now. Word had definitely spread. Harrison sat at his table, flanked by Bradford and 2 other attorneys. Constance was absent from the gallery. Wesley and Amber sat behind Vivian now. Eleanor was already standing. Your Honor, the respondent calls Amber Sinclair. Harrison's head snapped up. Objection. Bradford's voice was weak. Ms. Sinclair is not on any witness list. Ms. Sinclair has come forward voluntarily with information relevant to these proceedings. Given the discovery of significant fraud, I believe the court has latitude to hear testimony that may clarify the petitioner's character. Judge Holloway considered. I'll allow it. Ms. Sinclair, please take the stand. Amber walked forward. Her heels clicked against the wooden floor. She looked different today. Smaller somehow. Less polished. She sat in the witness chair, raised her right hand, swore to tell the truth. Eleanor approached. Ms. Sinclair, how long did you work for Harrison Mercer? 4 years. And during that time, what was the nature of your relationship? Amber glanced at Harrison. He was staring at her with pure hatred. For the first year, strictly professional. Then, she swallowed. We became involved, romantically. For how long? 3 years. The gallery murmured. 3 years, Eleanor repeated. So, your affair with Mr. Mercer began before his wife's first pregnancy. Yes? Eleanor let that sit. When did you become aware that Mrs. Mercer was pregnant the first time? He told me about a week after they found out. He was... Amber paused. He was annoyed. He said the timing was inconvenient. Inconvenient. The word hit Vivian like a physical blow. Her baby. Their baby. Inconvenient. And when Mrs. Mercer lost that pregnancy, he seemed relieved. Amber's voice was barely audible. He said it had resolved itself. The courtroom was silent. Ms. Sinclair, were you aware of Mr. Mercer's plans to divorce his wife? Yes. He started talking about it about a year ago. He said he wanted to wait until she was further along in the next pregnancy. He said it would be easier to win custody that way. Did he explain why? He said pregnant women are emotional, irrational, that any judge would see she was unfit to be a mother. Vivian felt her mother's hand on her arm, steadying. One more question, Miss Sinclair. Did Mr. Mercer make any statements to you about his wife? Amber closed her eyes. When she opened them, they were wet. He called her stupid, repeatedly. He said she was easy to manipulate. He said she believed everything he told her because she wanted to believe it. She looked at Vivian. He laughed about it, about how trusting you were. He said you'd never suspect anything because you loved him too much to see the truth. Vivian's vision blurred. She blinked hard. He was right, she said softly. I didn't see it. I didn't want to see it. Vivian. Her mother's voice was gentle. Not now. No further questions, Eleanor said. Bradford stood for cross-examination, but there was nothing to cross-examine. Amber had no reason to lie. She'd lost everything by coming forward. "Ms. Sinclair," Bradford said, "is it possible you're testifying out of spite, after discovering Mr. Mercer was involved with another woman?" Amber looked at him. "Yes," she said. "I'm angry. I'm humiliated. He used me the same way he used his wife. But that doesn't make what I've said any less true." Bradford sat down. The afternoon stretched on. Eleanor called Wesley Mercer to the stand. His testimony was devastating. Documents showing Harrison's forgery of their father's will. Evidence of tax fraud spanning a decade. Proof that Harrison had systematically destroyed anyone who threatened to expose him. "Our father trusted Harrison," Wesley said. "He believed he was leaving the family business in capable hands. Harrison repaid that trust by stealing everything and cutting me out entirely." "Why didn't you come forward sooner?" Eleanor asked. "Fear." Wesley's voice was flat. "Harrison has resources, connections. He made it clear that if I challenged him, he would destroy what was left of my reputation. I have children. I couldn't risk it." "What changed?" Wesley looked at Vivian. "When I heard what he was doing to her, I couldn't stay silent anymore. Watching him do to someone else what he did to me, I couldn't live with that." Eleanor nodded. No further questions. The judge called another recess. This time, only 30 minutes. Vivian sat in the conference room. Her mother reviewed notes. Wesley and Amber had left. Douglas stayed. "Dad?" "Yes, sweetheart." "Would you testify? As a character witness?" Douglas looked up. His eyes were soft, sad. "Of course, if it would help. Mom has everything she needs. Evidence, documents, but I want the judge to hear about who I actually am, not the person Harrison described." Douglas nodded slowly. "Then I'll testify." The afternoon session resumed. Eleanor called Douglas Ashford to the stand. He walked up slowly. 60 years old, retired surgeon, hands that had saved countless lives. Hands that trembled now as he placed them on the Bible. "Dr. Ashford," Eleanor said, "can you describe your daughter?" Douglas looked at Vivian. His face crumpled for a moment before he controlled it. "My daughter is the kindest person I know. She sees the best in people, sometimes too much. She gives more than she receives. She loves with her whole heart." He paused. "When she was 22, she graduated top of her class in architecture. She designed a community center for a low-income neighborhood. She didn't charge a penny for it. She just wanted to help." What happened to her career? "She met Harrison. He convinced her that her work wasn't important, that her role was to support him. She gave up everything she'd built because he asked her to." Douglas's voice hardened. "I watched my daughter disappear over 6 years. The light went out of her eyes. She stopped calling, stopped visiting. Harrison said she needed to focus on her marriage, but I knew the truth. He was isolating her, cutting her off from everyone who loved her." "Did you ever confront him?" "Once, 5 years ago, I took him aside and asked what he was doing to my daughter." "What did he say?" Douglas's jaw tightened. He said, "With all due respect, Dr. Ashford, your daughter chose me. Maybe you should accept that she doesn't need you anymore." The words hung in the air. "He was wrong," Douglas continued. "She always needed us. She just couldn't see it. He made sure of that." Eleanor let the silence stretch. "One more question, Dr. Ashford. In your professional and personal opinion, is your daughter fit to raise a child?" Douglas looked directly at Judge Holloway. "Your Honor, I've delivered hundreds of babies in my career. I've seen parents of every kind. Good ones, bad ones, overwhelmed ones. My daughter will be an exceptional mother, not because she's perfect, because she's strong, because she survived things that would have broken most people, and because she loves her child more than she loves herself. I've never been more certain of anything." He turned to look at Harrison. "A good man doesn't promise to protect someone and then become the thing she needs protection from." The courtroom was silent. "No further questions," Eleanor said. Judge Holloway called for closing arguments. Bradford Whitmore stood. He looked tired, defeated, but he tried. "Your Honor, my client is a successful businessman who has made mistakes, but he loves his child. He wants to be part of that child's life. Whatever his personal failings, he deserves the chance to be a father." It was weak. Everyone knew it was weak. Eleanor stood. "Your Honor, over the past 2 days, we have seen overwhelming evidence of fraud, deception, and systematic abuse. Mr. Mercer didn't just lie to this court. He lied to his wife, his brother, his business partners, everyone who trusted him." She moved to the center of the courtroom. "He planned this divorce a year in advance, timed it for when his pregnant wife would be most vulnerable, blocked every attorney in this city from representing her, used her grief counseling against her, and through it all, he laughed about how easy she was to manipulate." Eleanor's voice rose. "My daughter is not unstable. She is not unfit. She is a woman who survived 6 years of emotional abuse while maintaining her dignity and her humanity. She gathered evidence in secret. She protected herself when no one else would. She showed up to this courtroom alone, 8 months pregnant, and faced down an army of attorneys because she refused to give up on herself or her child." She turned to face Harrison directly. "That is not weakness. That is extraordinary strength." Then she faced the judge. "Your Honor, I ask that you void the prenuptial agreement due to fraud and coercion. I ask for equitable distribution of marital assets, the real assets, not the falsified disclosure. I ask for full custody of the child, and I ask that you refer Mr. Mercer's financial fraud to the district attorney for criminal investigation." She sat down. Judge Holloway removed her glasses, rubbed her eyes. "In my 23 years on the bench," she said slowly, "I have rarely seen such blatant contempt for the legal process." She looked at Harrison. "Mr. Mercer, you submitted fraudulent financial disclosure. You manipulated your wife's ability to secure legal representation. You weaponized confidential medical records. You planned this divorce with deliberate cruelty." Harrison started to speak. His attorney's hand on his arm stopped him. "The prenuptial agreement is voided due to inadequate disclosure and coercion. Ms. Mercer is entitled to equitable distribution of marital assets based on the actual value of those assets." She consulted her notes. "Given the evidence presented, I find that Mr. Mercer's net worth is approximately $450 million. Mrs. Mercer's is awarded 50%. That is $225 million. The gallery erupted. "Furthermore," Judge Holloway continued, raising her voice, "full custody of the unborn child is awarded to the mother. Mr. Mercer may petition for supervised visitation rights after the child's birth, pending completion of a psychological evaluation of himself." Harrison's face was gray. Finally, Judge Holloway said, "I am referring the fraudulent financial disclosure and related evidence to the district attorney's office for investigation of potential perjury and fraud charges." She looked at Harrison one last time. "You thought you could buy your way out of accountability, Mr. Mercer. You were wrong." The gavel fell. The courtroom exploded into noise. Reporters shouted questions. Camera phones flashed. Harrison's attorneys surrounded him, trying to shield him from the chaos. Vivian sat frozen. "It's over." The words didn't seem real. Her mother's arms wrapped around her. "You did it, sweetheart. You won." Vivian started to cry. Relief and exhaustion and something that might have been joy, all mixed together. Her father joined the embrace, the three of them holding each other in the middle of the chaos. "I need to get out of here," Vivian whispered. Eleanor nodded. "Side exit. Douglas, get the car." They moved quickly, through a back hallway, away from the reporters. The noise faded behind them. Outside, the afternoon sun was blinding. Vivian hadn't seen real sunlight in what felt like days. A car pulled up. Douglas behind the wheel. Vivian climbed into the back seat, Eleanor beside her. As they pulled away from the courthouse, Vivian looked out the window. Harrison stood on the front steps, surrounded by cameras. His perfect suit, his polished shoes, his empire crumbling around him. He looked smaller somehow. Vivian turned away. She never wanted to see him again. 2 weeks later, Vivian stood in the nursery of her house now. The judge had awarded it as part of the settlement. The walls were painted soft sage green. She'd done it herself with Marlene's help. 3 coats. Her arms had ached for days. Worth it. The crib stood in the corner, handmade by her father. Oak and maple. Sanded smooth. Stained golden. 4 generations of Ashford women have slept in a crib I built, Douglas had said when he delivered it. This baby will make 5. The rocking chair sat by the window, her grandmother's chair, the same one that had rocked Eleanor as an infant, the same one that had rocked Vivian. The wood was worn smooth by decades of use. Vivian traced the armrest with her fingers. So much history in this piece of furniture, so much love. The doorbell rang. Marlene appeared in the nursery doorway. "That's the delivery. Baby supplies. I'll handle it. Thank you." Vivian heard voices downstairs, the rustle of packages, the sound of normal life. She sat down in the rocking chair. The leather cushion had been replaced. That was new, but the frame was original. The baby moved. Lower now. The doctor said it would be soon, maybe this week. "We're almost there," Vivian whispered. "Just a little longer." She thought about the past 2 weeks, the lawyers, the paperwork, the interviews with prosecutors. Harrison was under investigation now. Federal charges pending. Wesley's evidence had opened a floodgate. Some days it felt like too much. The phone calls, the reporters, the endless questions. Other days it felt like freedom. Today was a freedom day. Eleanor appeared in the doorway. "How are you feeling?" "Tired, hopeful, scared. That sounds about right for someone about to become a mother." Eleanor crossed the room, stood behind the rocking chair. Her hands rested on Vivian's shoulders. "I'm proud of you," she said quietly. "I know I don't say it enough, but I am. You came when I needed you. I should have come sooner, should have pushed harder when I saw the signs. I wouldn't have listened. Maybe not. But I should have tried." They stayed like that for a long moment. Mother and daughter, the afternoon light streaming through the window. "I have something for you," Eleanor said. She pulled a small velvet box from her pocket, placed it in Vivian's hands. Inside was a necklace, a simple gold chain with a small pendant. The letter G in delicate script. G for Grace. Eleanor smiled. "Your grandmother's name, and hopefully your daughter's." Grace. Vivian had been thinking about names for months, had considered dozens. None of them felt right. But this one did. "Grace," she repeated. "Grace Ashford. Not Mercer, never Mercer." Eleanor nodded. Satisfied, the baby moved again, stronger this time. "I think she likes it," Vivian said. 1 month later, the hospital room was quiet. Early morning light filtered through the blinds. Vivian held her daughter for the first time. 7 pounds, 4 ounces, 10 fingers, 10 toes. a dusting of dark hair, eyes that couldn't quite focus yet, but seemed to see everything. "Grace," Vivian whispered, "your name is Grace." The baby made a small sound, not quite a cry, more like an acknowledgement. Eleanor stood at the window. Douglas wiped his eyes. Marlene had stepped out to call her husband. "I need to tell someone who isn't crying," she'd said. Vivian studied her daughter's face, looking for traces of Harrison, finding none. Or maybe just choosing not to see them. "This child is mine. Whatever she inherited from him, she is mine." "I'm going to make mistakes," Vivian said quietly, to the baby, to herself. "I'm going to get things wrong. I don't know everything about being a mother." Grace blinked, her tiny hand wrapped around Vivian's finger. "But I know I love you, and I know I'll try. Every single day, I'll try to be the mother you deserve." The baby made another sound. Content. Vivian smiled, tears running down her face. Happy tears this time. "Welcome to the world, Grace. It's not perfect, but it's ours." 6 months later, Vivian stood in front of a building she had designed, a shelter for women leaving abusive relationships. Funded by her settlement, built by contractors she chose herself. The structure was full of light, windows everywhere, open spaces, gardens visible from every room. Women who've lived in darkness deserve to see the sun, she'd told the architect, who helped her refine the plans. Every room should feel like freedom. The dedication ceremony had been small. No reporters, no cameras, just the women who would live here, the staff who would support them, the donors who had contributed, and Grace, strapped to Vivian's chest in a carrier, sleeping through the whole thing. Eleanor had unveiled the dedication plaque. Simple bronze, clean lettering. For every woman who was told she had nothing, you have everything you need. You always did. Vivian had written those words herself. Late one night, Grace crying in the next room, exhaustion blurring her vision. She'd written them and known they were true. Not just for the women who would live here, for herself, all along, even in the darkest moments, even in the courthouse bathroom when she wanted to give up. She had everything she needed. The strength to survive, the love to keep going, the courage to start again. After the ceremony, Vivian drove home, Grace babbling in the car seat behind her. The house was quiet, peaceful, full of light. She fed Grace, changed her, rocked her in the grandmother's chair until she fell asleep. Then Vivian sat on the back porch, watching the sunset paint the sky pink and gold. She thought about Harrison. She did that less often now. The criminal trial was proceeding. Federal charges, state charges. Wesley was testifying. So was Amber. So were a dozen former employees who had finally found the courage to speak. Harrison would probably go to prison, maybe for years. Vivian didn't follow the news about it anymore. She was too busy building something new. The architecture firm had reopened. Small for now, just Vivian and 2 associates, but growing. 3 projects in development, more in the pipeline. The shelter was the first. There would be others. "I thought strength meant enduring," she'd told Marlene once. Staying quiet, holding it together, never showing weakness. And now? Now I think real strength is standing up, walking away, starting over, even when it terrifies you. Marlene had raised her wine glass. To terrifying new beginnings. To terrifying new beginnings. The sunset faded. Stars emerged. The evening air turned cool. Vivian went inside, checked on Grace, still sleeping, perfect. She climbed into her own bed, a bed she chose herself, in a room she decorated herself, in a life she was building herself. The baby monitor glowed softly on the nightstand. Tomorrow, there would be more work, more challenges, more moments of doubt. But tonight, there was peace. Vivian closed her eyes. The prison door had been unlocked all along. She had been her own warden. Now she was free. And freedom, she was learning, felt a lot like grace. 1 year later, a letter arrived at Vivian's office. No return address, handwritten. Vivian recognized the writing immediately. Harrison. She almost threw it away, unopened. Almost. Instead, she sat at her desk, the letter in her hands. She opened it. Vivian, I know you don't want to hear from me. I know I don't deserve to contact you, but I'm writing anyway. The trial is over. You probably know that. 7 years. Federal prison. I'll be 60 when I get out. I've had a lot of time to think about what I did, about who I was, about the man I became. I'm not writing to ask for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. I'm not writing to make excuses. There are none. I'm writing because I finally understand what I lost. Not the money, not the company, not even my freedom. I lost you. I had someone who loved me completely, who trusted me, who would have stood by me through anything, and I destroyed it, deliberately, systematically, because I thought I could, because I thought I was untouchable. I was wrong. I hope Grace is healthy. I hope she's happy. I hope she grows up to be like her mother, strong, kind, better than I ever was. I'm not asking to be part of her life. I know I gave up that right, but I hope someday you might tell her that her father wasn't always a monster, that once a long time ago, he was capable of love, even if he forgot how. I'm sorry. Harrison. Vivian read the letter twice. Then she put it in her desk drawer. With the divorce papers, the court documents, all the evidence of a life she had left behind. She looked at the photo on her desk. Grace's first birthday, smash cake covering her face, laughing. Maybe someday she would tell Grace about her father, the truth, all of it, the good and the bad, the man he was and the man he became. But not yet. For now, there was work to do, buildings to design, women to help. A daughter to raise. Vivian stood. She walked to the window, looked out at the city below. The shelter she'd built was visible from here, the windows catching the afternoon light. Behind her, the letter sat in its drawer. Words from a man who had finally run out of lies. Vivian watched the light play across the buildings. Then she turned back to her drafting table. She had work to do. If this story touches your heart, do me a small favor. Hit that like button. It helps more women find stories that remind them of their own strength. Drop a comment below. Tell me, have you ever faced a moment when you felt completely alone, only to discover someone was fighting for you all along? Share this with a friend who needs to hear that she is not broken. She is just waiting for her moment. And if you have not subscribed yet, join our family. We bring you stories every week that will make you laugh, cry, and remember why you never give up. Now, let us begin. Closing disclaimer: this content has been carefully researched, developed, and manually edited by our team. Every word is crafted with intention to bring meaningful lessons and emotional value to our viewers. We believe stories have the power to heal, inspire, and remind us of our own strength. Thank you for being part of this journey with us.